The first call came on a Tuesday night, well past 2 a.m. I was deep in the kind of sleep that grief forces you into. Restless, hollow, and filled with dreams that never quite let you go. The sharp buzz of my phone on the nightstand yanked me out of it like a hook to the chest. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but there it was, vibrating steadily, screen glowing in the dark room like a beacon. Groggily, I squinted through bleary eyes, and when I saw the name on the screen, my breath caught in my throat. Mark, my best friend, dead. Gone in a freak car accident just 12 days ago. My hands trembled. My thoughts didn't know where to go. Memories, shock, and denial crashing into each other all at once. I stared at the screen, paralyzed. The name hadn't changed. Still Mark. Still calling. I don't know what part of me moved, what instinct overruled logic, but I tapped accept and pressed the phone to my ear. "Hello?" I whispered, barely finding my voice in the thick quiet of my bedroom. There was nothing. Just static. A soft, distant crackling that reminded me of an old TV left on in an empty room. I strained to hear something else, anything, a breath, a voice, a cough, but the silence beneath the static was heavy, unnatural. "Mark?" I asked, my voice breaking mid-syllable. There was a pause, a long one, then something, a sound I couldn't place, a sigh, a whisper. It lasted a heartbeat before the line went dead. That was it. Nothing more. I stared at the screen. Call ended. For a long moment, I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then I sat up in bed, clutching the phone to my chest like a lifeline. I stayed that way until morning, watching the phone, waiting for it to light up again. It didn't. The next day was a blur. I went to work, but I wasn't there. My mind kept replaying the moment I saw his name, the soft hiss on the other end, the silence that followed. I told myself it could have been a glitch, a scam call, someone spoofing his number by some horrific coincidence. But deep down, none of those explanations held. I knew Mark's voice. I knew the feeling in my gut. That wasn't a coincidence. That night, sleep didn't come easy. I left the phone on my chest, screen facing up, brightness turned all the way up so I wouldn't miss a thing. And still, when the clock on my nightstand hit 2:17 a.m., my heart dropped. The time of his crash. I didn't even need to look. The phone buzzed. Same name, same ringtone I had set for him, still there despite everything. I answered faster this time. "Mark?" I said, nearly breathless. Nothing. Just the sound of a dead sky, static pressing against my ear like the cold hand of something not quite gone. I whispered his name again. "Please, say something." But there was only that sound, like a fire miles away, like the air between worlds. And then silence. This time, I didn't cry. I couldn't. My body had gone still. I sat there staring into nothing, clutching the phone like it might speak again, like it might pull him back. I didn't sleep at all the rest of that night. The walls felt closer, the dark heavier. Every creak in the house sounded like a whisper. Every shadow on the wall looked like a figure waiting. The only thing louder than the silence was the question burning in my mind. If Mark was really gone, who or what was trying to reach me? And why was I starting to hope the call would come again? The next night, I didn't even try to sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, eyes fixed on the phone, watching the minutes crawl toward that same cursed time, 2:17 a.m. I wasn't sure what I was expecting. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Maybe I had lost my mind completely, and the first call was just a cruel dream twisted from grief. But when the numbers on the clock flipped, when the room filled with that eerie silence only the dead of night can bring, the phone lit up again. Mark. No hesitation this time. I grabbed it mid-vibration, thumb hitting accept like a reflex. I pressed it to my ear and held my breath. The static was waiting. Not loud, not soft, just there. A steady hiss like wind through dead leaves. But then, something else. A faint sound beneath it. My name. Alex. I froze. The voice was unmistakable. Distorted. Barely audible, but it was him. It was Mark. Mark? I whispered, barely able to form the word. Mark, is that you? A sound came through then that shook me to my core. A sob. Fragile. Broken. Like someone weeping from the bottom of a well. It wasn't just the sound. It was the emotion behind it. My throat tightened. My skin prickled. I'm here, Mark, I said, my voice trembling. I'm right here. The static deepened. Warmer now, like it surrounded me. Like it was in the walls, the floor. And through it, his voice again. It's so cold. I'm still here. The words cut through me like glass. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. My best friend, dead and buried, was speaking to me, not in a dream, not in a memory, in real time. Somehow. What do you mean, still here? I finally managed to say, choking on my own confusion. Where are you? But there was no answer. The static swelled, washed over everything, then ebbed away into silence. The call dropped. I sat there for minutes afterward, phone pressed to my ear, praying it would come back, that he'd say more, that this wasn't the end. But the line stayed dead. My room felt colder than before, as if something had come in with that voice and left a chill behind. This wasn't just my imagination. I knew it now. I wasn't crazy. I knew Mark's voice like I knew my own heartbeat. And that wasn't just a glitch or a memory. It was him. I had to prove it. The next day, I downloaded a call recorder and tested it. I made sure it would capture everything, every hiss, every whisper. I wasn't going to let another moment pass undocumented. People would think I was insane, but I didn't care. I needed the truth. I needed answers. That night, I didn't lie in bed. I sat at my desk, phone plugged in, recording app open, headphones ready. I waited. I counted the seconds. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the screen lit up. I hit record, heart pounding. Mark, I said immediately. The static answered. And then, just as before, Alex, it's so cold. I'm still here. He said the same words, like they were stuck, like he was stuck, trapped in a loop that he couldn't break free from. Mark, where is here? I asked again, leaning into the phone like it could pull me closer to him. Nothing. Just silence. Then the call ended again. I replayed the recording over and over. Each time the voice sounded more real, more urgent. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't a memory. It was a message. And the words he spoke haunted me more with each listen. I'm still here. But where was here? I didn't know what was worse. Hearing his voice again, or realizing that he might be stuck somewhere, reaching out to me not for comfort, but for help. As the darkness closed in around me that night, one truth settled into my bones. Something was very wrong, and this was only the beginning. I couldn't get his voice out of my head. I'm still here. It echoed through my thoughts every waking minute, like it had burned itself into my brain. I kept replaying the recording I made over and over, slowing it down, boosting the volume, searching for anything in the static that I might have missed. But there was nothing more. Just Mark's broken whisper and a silence that now felt like a wall between us. I needed answers. Not just for me, but for him. If there was any chance he was reaching out from somewhere real, I had to follow it. The next day, I drove to the crash site. It was just off a winding road near the outskirts of town, the kind of stretch where accidents feel inevitable. Twisted guardrails lined the curve. Scorch marks still darkened the tree where Mark's car had finally come to a stop. The air felt wrong there. Still. Heavy. Like the world had stopped moving on that patch of ground. I stepped out of the car and felt my phone buzz in my pocket. I pulled it out, confused. No messages, no missed calls. Just a spike in the signal, full bars, when normally that area had nothing. No towers for miles. I stood there, watching the signal hold strong like it was feeding off something. The phone wasn't even connected to data, but it hummed in my hand, the screen almost too bright under the cloudy sky. Something was different here. The air felt colder. I had the strangest feeling I was being watched. While I stood at the edge of the crash site, an old pickup pulled up alongside mine. A man, probably in his 60s, rolled down the window and squinted at me. "You looking for someone?" he asked. I hesitated, then said, "No, just visiting a friend who passed." He nodded slowly, eyes never leaving the tree. "You know, folks around here don't like stopping at this spot. Some say they hear voices late at night. Others say they see headlights coming around the bend that never arrive." I felt the weight of his words settle on me like another layer of cold. "Voices?" I asked carefully. The man nodded again. "It's not the first crash we've had here, and it won't be the last. This place, it holds on to things." I didn't know what to say to that. He drove off a moment later, but his words stayed with me. It holds on to things. The idea gnawed at me as I walked to the exact place Mark's car had struck the tree. The bark was still scarred. I crouched down and ran my fingers across the damaged surface, and my phone buzzed again. I pulled it out. 2:17 p.m., not the time, but the same digits. And the signal? Still full. That night, I dreamed of Mark for the first time since the calls started. But this wasn't like the usual dreams, the kind that replay old memories or twist them into something nonsensical. This one felt real. I was standing in a black space. No sky, no floor, just void. And in the distance, I saw him. Mark, or something like him. He was barely lit, his outline flickering like static. He was screaming, mouth open, arms outstretched, face twisted in terror. But I couldn't hear a sound, only the distant hum of that familiar static, growing louder with every heartbeat. I woke up gasping for air, drenched in sweat. And then the phone rang. 2:17 a.m. This time I didn't hesitate. I answered, hands shaking. The line was dead silent. Not even static this time, just an oppressive quiet that made my ears ache. I was about to speak when a whisper cut through like a blade. "They won't let me go." My breath caught. "Mark, who? Who won't let you go?" But there was no answer, only the sound of my own heart pounding in my ears and the phone line cutting out like it had never called at all. I didn't sleep again that night. Not after hearing those words, because it wasn't just about Mark anymore. There was something else. Someone else. And whatever they weren't done with him. Or with me. I didn't go back to the crash site after that night. I couldn't. Something about it had changed me. Something about what I felt there, what I heard in Mark's voice, kept gnawing at my sense of reality. They won't let me go. It played over and over in my head like a broken record, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't know the full story. Mark had always been curious, especially about the unexplained, ghost stories, forgotten places, EVP, electronic voice phenomena. He used to drag me along on weekend trips to old buildings and cemeteries with that damn audio recorder in his hand, swearing he picked up whispers in the silence. I'd always laughed it off. Until now. I found the small wooden box tucked away in the corner of his old apartment. It was hidden behind a loose panel in his closet, like he didn't want anyone to find it. Inside were notebooks, tangled wires, audio tapes, and a voice recorder still stained with dust. His handwriting covered every page of the journal, frantic, scribbled notes that grew more erratic the deeper I flipped. Dates, times, questions like, "What did I hear last night?" and "Who is the second voice?" One page stopped me cold. They're not echoes, they're eyes. The audio recordings were worse. The first few were just static, maybe a whisper here or there that could have been explained away. But the last two? I had to stop playing them halfway through. Mark was talking to someone, or something. And whatever it wasn't answering with words. Just guttural sounds. Static that crackled like growling breath. And faint cries. Like someone was buried under layers of sound, screaming from beneath. I was still listening when the cold started. At first, I thought it was just the weather. I turned the heat up. Nothing changed. I wrapped myself in layers, still cold. But it wasn't the kind of chill you could fight with a blanket. It was inside the walls, inside me. My breath fogged in front of my face. The air felt like it pressed down on my skin. Then things got worse. The kitchen faucet turned itself on. I'd hear thumps in the attic, even though I didn't have one. Doors creaked open that I know I'd shut. And sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I'd catch something move, a shadow that didn't belong to anything. The cold followed it. Wherever it went, it brought the freeze. But the phone call that night, that was different. It didn't come at 2:17. It came at 1:46. I knew because I'd been staring at the clock, unable to sleep, trying to build the courage to play another one of Mark's recordings. The screen lit up. Mark's name. But something in me didn't want to answer. I hesitated, heart hammering. Then I pressed accept. There was no static, just silence. Then Mark's voice, weak and afraid. "It's not just me. You have to stop it." "What is it, Mark? Who's holding you?" No answer, only a sound. Something else breathing on the line. Not him. Deeper. Like a furnace buried under earth. Then I heard something slam in the hallway behind me. I jumped, turned around, phone still pressed to my ear. Nothing. But when I turned back to the phone, a new voice spoke. Not Mark. This one was lower. Rough. Like it scraped its way into my skull. "You should have stayed quiet." Then the call ended. I stared at the screen until it went dark, the cold settling so deep into my bones it felt like my blood had frozen. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just sat in my living room with every light on, listening to the silence, waiting to see if it would speak again. The next day, I went back to Mark's journal, flipping through pages until one fell out. A single torn sheet. On it, in large, trembling letters. "If I disappear, don't just listen. Look beneath it." Look beneath what? That night, as the hour approached again, I felt a presence. Not just the cold or the shadows. It was heavier. The lights flickered. And then, just before the phone rang, the mirror in the hallway cracked without anyone touching it. Right down the center, splintered like a scar. When I looked into it, for a second, I didn't see my own reflection. I saw him. Mark. His eyes wide, mouth open, reaching. And something was pulling him back. The static followed me everywhere. It wasn't just in the phone anymore. It was in my ears, like a constant low humming that never let up. I started hearing it in the walls, through the vents, even in the silence between my own heartbeats. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see flashes of that void where Mark had stood, arms outstretched, mouth open in silent terror. His words still clung to me. "It's not just me. You have to stop it." But what was it? Whatever had him, whatever was lurking in the crackling static, it wasn't finished. I knew I couldn't figure it out alone anymore. I needed help, not from a skeptic, not from someone who dismissed this as a mental break. I found someone online. Someone who claimed they had worked with people experiencing electronic disturbances linked to energy imprints and echoed consciousness. I didn't care how strange it sounded. I just needed someone who would believe me. Her name was Mara. She didn't flinch when I told her about the calls, the time they came, the voice, or the new one that had spoken to me in that guttural tone. She didn't ask if I'd been sleeping well or if I was on medication. She just nodded through the screen of our video call and said, "You're not the first, but it's getting stronger." That night, Mara instructed me to record everything. Sounds, temperatures, shadows, anything. She told me to keep the phone near but not to answer it again unless I absolutely had to. "It's feeding off your responses," she warned. "The more you engage, the clearer the path becomes." I didn't know what that meant, but I didn't ask. I was too afraid of the answer. At 2:17, The phone rang again. I let it ring. My hands were sweaty, clenched into fists on my knees as I stared at the screen. It rang longer than it ever had before, almost a full minute before stopping. Then my TV turned on by itself. No image, just static. Loud, hissing, angry static. And over it, voices, multiple, layered. Some sounded like Mark, others didn't. Some were crying, some screaming. One whispered my name over and over. Alex, Alex, Alex. I recorded all of it. The next day I played the audio back for Mara. She listened with her eyes closed, as if focusing on more than the sounds. When the voice whispered my name, she opened her eyes and said, "There's more than one presence now. You've become the tether." I didn't want to be the tether. I didn't want to be part of this. But I couldn't run from it anymore. The calls were still coming. The shadows in the mirrors were clearer. I caught glimpses of faces, half-formed, twisted in pain, watching me through screens and puddles. The cold was worse now, not just around me, but inside. Like something had reached through and was living in me. That night, I heard Mark again. I had left the phone on speaker and set it on the floor while I tried to sleep. At 2:17, the air went still. Then a voice, faint but unmistakable. "It knows you're listening. It's growing stronger." I sat up in bed, heart pounding. "What is it, Mark? Please, tell me how to stop it." Static roared through the speaker, then silence. I waited, straining to hear. Then another voice, not Mark's. Rough, mocking, low enough to make the floorboards vibrate. "You're next." My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move. The lights in the room flickered. Something passed across the ceiling. No footsteps, no shape, just a presence. The phone glowed on the floor, screen pulsing as though something was breathing through it. After that night, I started hearing voices even without the phone. Whispers behind closed doors, sobs in the vents, screams through the pipes when the water ran. They were all around me, just outside the reach of light, like the house had become a radio tuned to a place I was never meant to hear. And every voice, every single one, sounded like someone begging to be let out. I couldn't take it anymore. The voices, the whispers, the cold that never left. It had started to bleed into the daylight now, no longer confined to the 2:17 hour. The static came in waves, sometimes from nowhere at all, and every so often, the TV or radio would burst into white noise before shutting off entirely. I was barely sleeping, barely functioning, and every time I looked at my reflection, I swore it lagged, like I was watching a delayed version of myself, or worse, like something else was watching through it. So I decided to destroy it. Mark's phone, the notebooks, the recorder, everything that might have tethered him, or them, to this world. I piled it all in the fire pit behind my house. I doused it in lighter fluid, trembling as I struck the match. For a second, I hesitated. It felt wrong, like I was about to betray him, but I reminded myself that he had asked for help, begged me. This was me trying to help. The fire blazed bright and fast, the plastic warped, the pages turned to ash, the old tape recorder sparked and cracked. I watched it all burn and thought, finally. Maybe this ends it. But it didn't. That night, at 2:17 a.m., my phone rang again. Except it was off. Battery removed. I'd left it inside the fire pit. Still, it lit up. Still, it buzzed. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My legs were frozen in place. I watched as it rattled against the ash, glowing brighter than it ever had in life, until the name Mark vanished and was replaced by a symbol I didn't recognize, like an incomplete spiral. Then it stopped. From that moment on, everything escalated. I began seeing Mark more often, but never for more than a second. Reflected in puddles, in windows, even in the gloss of my microwave door. His face, pale, stretched with fear, would appear, mouth always open, eyes always pleading. And sometimes when I blinked, I would see flashes of where he was, A cold, gray space, like an endless tunnel lined with the shapes of people just barely visible in the dark. Reaching, moaning, waiting. One night I fell asleep in front of the TV, exhausted. I woke up to silence. The screen was black, but my reflection was still there. Except it wasn't mine. Mark stood behind me, clear as day. I spun around. No one. When I turned back, the screen displayed a single message in glowing red text. Come here. Help me. Please. Or I'll be lost forever. I stumbled back, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The message faded, and the TV shut off completely. That was when I started blacking out. The first time, I lost about an hour. I came to in the hallway, lights off, phone in my hand, voice recorder running. I didn't remember turning it on, but the playback chilled me, my voice ragged and distant, whispering, "He's close. I can feel him. He's right behind the glass." The second time, I wasn't even home. I came to at the crash site, standing at the exact spot where Mark's car had struck the tree. No jacket, no keys, no memory of how I got there. The bark was cold beneath my hand. My phone, somehow back in my pocket, started vibrating. The screen didn't show a call this time, just a single word pulsing in white. Look. And then it happened. That night, during the call, I answered. The moment I pressed the button, my vision blurred. The room twisted. It was like falling without moving. The air grew thicker, the light faded to nothing, and I wasn't in my room anymore. I was there, wherever Mark had been trapped. A place with no sky, no ground, just freezing endless dark filled with drifting shadows. Some human, some not. The only light came from a flickering shape in the distance. Mark, shackled by something unseen. His face lit up when he saw me, and I felt a pull, a connection so strong it hurt. "Help me!" he cried out. Then I was yanked back. I collapsed on the floor, lungs burning. The phone lay beside me, screen shattered, the last of its glow fading. I crawled away from it like it might still reach out and grab me. Whatever had a hold on Mark was real, and now it had seen me, and I had seen it. The GPS data embedded in the final recording pointed to a location just outside town. An old, weather-beaten building at the edge of a forest I didn't even know existed. No signs, no roads, just overgrown brush and the fading path of tire tracks long buried beneath fallen leaves. When I arrived, the air was thick, colder than usual, the kind of cold that didn't belong in April. The building stood silent, half swallowed by trees, with broken windows and a door that hung crooked on rusted hinges. It shouldn't have felt familiar, but it did. Inside, the air was dense, heavy with dust and a strange electric hum that vibrated in my teeth. The walls were scorched with marks, scratches that formed no language, but hinted at a pattern, like something had been clawing from the inside out. In the center of the room, I found what Mark must have left behind. A circle of old equipment, EVP recorders, a cracked laptop still faintly glowing, loose wires connecting to nothing. Everything was coated in ash and dust, yet the place thrummed with a silent energy that seemed to respond to my presence, like it had been waiting. Mark's journal was there too, open to a page I hadn't seen before. Just one line scrawled in frantic ink. "If you hear my voice again, follow it." The moment I read those words, my phone rang. 2:17 a.m., even though I hadn't recharged it, even though it was the same phone I'd burned. Mark's name lit up the screen. I answered, and everything changed. The room pulsed, walls seeming to breathe in and out. The hum grew louder, more chaotic, until it became a high-pitched scream beneath the surface. But through it, Mark's voice was there. Not broken, not static-filled. Clear. "This is goodbye," he said. "Thank you." Then silence. A light, soft and warm, filled the room. Not blinding, not aggressive. Just a gentle glow that rose from the floor and spread across the ceiling like a sunrise through fog. I turned and saw him, Mark, standing just a few feet away, whole. Not scared, not trapped. He gave me a look I can only describe as peace, And then, as the glow grew brighter, he stepped backward and faded into it. I was alone again. The equipment shut down. The hum stopped. The air warmed. The building, once thick with something unspoken, now felt still. For the first time in weeks, the silence was just silence. I walked out just before dawn. Birds were singing. The trees swayed gently. No more cold, no more shadows trailing behind me, no more whispers and mirrors. Back home, I waited. One night passed, then two. Then a week. No calls, no static. No reflections that moved on their own. It was over. Mark was gone. But not in the way I'd feared. Not lost. Not trapped. He was finally free. Sometimes I still keep the phone nearby, just in case. Not because I expect him to call, but because in a strange way, I don't want to forget what I heard, what I saw, what I felt. Because even now, long after the last call ended, I swear, when the world is quiet enough, I can still hear his voice, just beyond the static.